Monday Night Raw from Laredo, Texas, and I see the vision now. I don't have to like it. Let's get into it. We start the show with a segment from the Bloodline, or rather, they're going by another name now. We'll see how that works in. We'll see if they keep the Bloodline or they keep this new name that they're seeming to work in. But I will say, as far as a vignette segment goes, it was actually pretty good. I quite liked it. We're starting to feel that aura and that power come back. It almost feels like the WWE are stretching for something they kind of lost, and the way to revamp and get it back is to just reinstate the person who was at the helm of the ship during that period. And the Bloodline and the story of Roman Reigns holding that title for all that time that he did was a very important one for the WWE. And it was a strong one for the WWE. As far as fans and attention and grabbing eyes on the product, it worked. So therefore, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. That takes us to the start of the show with Seth Rollins coming to the ring and calling Bron Breakker out. This was quite a good promo section back and forth. It was more classic wrestling than anything else. I quite like that about both Bron Breakker and Seth Rollins. He's a consummate professional. It's almost like something I said about Randy Orton. You know, he doesn't necessarily transcend the business, but he doesn't have to. He is one of the greats within the business. He doesn't need to transcend or go anywhere else. Within this sphere, there is not many greater. It's like watching classic storylines. It's like watching classic style performers do what they do in a modern era. And I quite like it. I enjoy it. I think Bron Breakker, having the lineage that he does, there's no other way for him to wrestle. There's no other way for him to be a wrestler. I saw an interview recently with him where he was having a conversation with Scott Steiner. I think it was his first match ever he was describing. And he had to openly say to Scott Steiner, listen, I can't wrestle. And Scott Steiner does what Scott Steiner says, gives him a little Steiner math and sends him on his way. All in all, it was a pretty good segment. I quite liked it. Let's see where it goes at Backlash. Well, we know where it's going to go. It's going to go to a match at Backlash. I think it's going to be a great match because I honestly think Seth Rollins was right and Bron Breakker isn't ready. I didn't think he was ready for quite some time, if I'm being honest. I didn't think he was ready when they put the NXT title on him. I thought the experience of him being tag team champions with Baron Corbin was a very good one because Baron Corbin could help him a lot. He wasn't in a sphere of chasing for the title and he wasn't in the sphere of having the title. He needed to know how to work out of that sphere because as soon as Bron Breakker came into the wrestling business, it's almost like he went straight for the NXT title straight away and he just demolished everyone on the way to it. I wouldn't say it's not the right way to go about it. I would say it happened too fast. And that is one thing I am looking at within the WWE at the moment. Rising the stock, they're doing it, I think, a little too fast at the moment. That brings us to the IC Championship match between Penta and Rusev. Well, there's no way Penta's going to drop that title anytime soon. Quite frankly, you're going to need a major PLE to do that. SummerSlam? I still don't think so. No. I don't think it's going to be SummerSlam either. It's definitely not going to be Backlash. But that, I think, leaves us with an issue and a problem. And I think it's all good and well as painting Rusev as this monster that you have on the roster, but it's seemingly doing the same thing that you did with Rusev the first time, which is you have him there as a perpetual monster. He can run through everybody after the match. He can run through everybody before the match. He can run through everybody in segments. But for some reason, he can't win matches. That doesn't make sense, especially championships. He definitely can't win championships. So while you have Rusev as this lower tier heavyweight, junior heavyweight, whatever, that sphere of performer, intercontinental US title sphere, you have this monster within that category, but he never wins. The champ is only as good as who he beats, and if Rusev is never holding titles, you have a problem. And I'm not saying I'm a massive fan of Rusev. I like Rusev, but I like him in the respects of him being a wrestler. As far as kayfabe goes, I don't like Rusev. He's the bad guy, right? It takes a lot for you to like the bad guy, and Rusev isn't that. So he's supposed to be a character that you boo and, but he needs to win for that to be credible, or else you're just slowly diminishing the character of Rusev, and he may be a monster, but he's a monster that's going to get beat all the time. Similarly, as far as credible heels go, I'm so glad that Ethan Page is on the roster because Ethan Page is diabolical. And let's be honest, I'm not even sure how long they're going to be able to keep Ethan Page in that Intercontinental US title area because his ability is so much better and it's clearly transcendent already. I see him in 2 episodes and he's already transcended from NXT to the main roster. that All Ego, the diabolical nature of how he behaves and what he does, the look in his eyes, his expressions, it's all over already. So I don't see Rusev winning that title anytime soon. I see All Ego picking up that title at some point soon. I think that will probably be the next person to take the title off of Penta. And when he does, that sets Rusev up against All Ego, but All Ego will win that as well. So I think Rusev essentially has a problem. But I can see the vision, as I said before, I see the vision the WWE are going for, especially when they bump up people like All Ego, Ethan Page, because it's already starting to work. I can see why they bumped up Javon because it's already starting to work. You can also similarly see why they did a lot of these releases because they feel comfortable with a lot of the people they have bumped up. Now, I don't necessarily feel that way about every single person that they've bumped up, but here's the thing. There's enough people in the class that they've bumped up in the last year and a half or so that I believe are good enough to keep the ship running. You saw Fatal Influence, they can keep the ship running. You've seen All Ego, he can keep the ship running. You've seen Javon, he can keep the ship running. You've seen Oba can keep the ship running. These are all performers. Trick can keep the ship running. There is quite a few of them, so I can see why a lot of these releases happen. I'm just saying. That brings us to my award winner for best promo of the night. These awards were difficult, I must say. The Triple Crown Champ Award, though, for Best Promo of the Night has to go to Becky Lynch. Becky Lynch before her match. I love Becky Lynch promos. I honestly do. I remember the one she did when she went to Ireland and she brought everybody up and everyone was cheering. Oh my God, here is the girl from Dublin. She's back. She's in her hometown. It's the first time she gets to see her home crowd and be in front of her home crowd and perform as Becky Lynch, a big character they all know and love now. And she just cursed them out. It was hilarious how she just brought them up and then just woof. And she has a habit of doing that and she does it very, very well. She did it once again in Laredo, Texas. It was hilarious. And then she called for an open challenge. And then she reneged on her open challenge. I love Becky Lynch promos. They are so funny. And they're kind of down to earth and real people. And they're like, you know what I mean? The wheels turning, you can see the wheels turning. You get it all. It's just on your level. It's right there. So many laughs. Which obviously led to a match between Io and Becky Lynch for that title. A chicanery would happen with Asuka towards the end of the match. But I will say, I will also give that match my best match of the night because the back and forth, I could have sworn at some point that Io was going to win the title because there was too many kickouts. There was too many kickouts by Io, and this usually, at this point, you know. They're just giving you something more exciting. I was very cautious of Becky Lynch's ability to go, considering she stepped down a sphere as far as working in the women's heavyweight sphere, in order to kind of, I guess, maybe have a little bit more controlled, a little bit slower, something more akin to someone who wants to spend more time with their family. It's not to do with work ethic or anything like that. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying maybe you get to take a little bit more of a back seat. It also makes sense to put the title on someone like that because they can teach the wrestlers around them. So I understand all of that for Becky Lynch to have taken a seat back. And then to have Io to be that competitor completely credible within both those spheres would have been worrying for the character of Becky Lynch. And she played all of that so well. So for me, best promo award was to Becky Lynch. And the best match award goes to Io and Becky Lynch. Phenomenal match, ladies. And also, of course, we want Kyrie. That took us to Joe Hendry in concert. I do love a Joe Hendry in concert. I do love a Joe Hendry in concert. I get giddy like a little kid when Joe Hendry comes out because then he does the spin and he smiles. And I don't know why that works for me. I just laugh my ass off every time. Every time. So, Joe Hendry in concert. And Joe Hendry may have made some remarks within his song that may not have been well received by certain members of the Vision. Paul, can we fire Logan Paul? Which led to, of course, the Vision coming to the ring. And, well, that got disturbed real quick by the Street Profits. I love the Street Profits. I do love the Street Profits. Spoken about this many times. Tez, Dawkins, you know what you got. You know what you got. You know what you got. Come on. Figure it out, WWE. Stop messing with Tez and Dawkins. They are just the truth right there. That led us to El Grande Americano versus Rey Mysterio. Pretty good match. It was okay. It's more about the storytelling, isn't it? And I really credit this one for the storytelling. They did a great deal of storytelling in this match, and they did it very, very well. They actually managed to achieve, for me, what they set out to achieve on this Raw, which was actually a very small feat if you understand how this whole thing works. I believe the segment was only given to them because they're trying to promote the match at the end of the week on Triple R, which is Mask versus Mask, right? But there's a lot of people who are probably not going to watch that. So therefore, putting this match on Raw is like an advertisement, a promotion for that match that's going to happen on Saturday night, Friday night, Saturday night, but it's happening on Triple R, right? Triple A, Triple R, however you want to say it, that's where it's happening. So that's actually what this match was. However, it was crafted so well that I think, should I have the time and I'm around and I'm not doing anything, I'm definitely going to watch that. I mean, it's Saturday night, things are happening, let's be real. I still got life. But the fact of the matter is, that match is happening on Saturday, and that's what they were trying to promote, and they did such a fantastic job at that, because that could have just gone straight over your head. But it didn't for me. So that brings us to Obafemi versus Grayson. Let's be fair, this has happened before, and the commentator did allude to that. There was a time where Grayson Waller and Austin Theory were still banging around together as pals, and they decided that they would go down to NXT and grab themselves a match against the NXT champion. I don't think they were paying attention to NXT TV properly, because it turns out when they showed up, the champion was Oba. I think it was Ava, couldn't decide who should face. So they just had both of them against Oba, and it was like a squash match. I think Grayson Waller is so funny. I think he's such a great performer. I love watching what he does, because he does it so very well. A match between him and Oba, I knew what it was as soon as the match got booked, as soon as Oba was behind him. So, yeah, I mean, it is what it is. It was going to be comedy all the way through. And it brought us to the end of the match, where Oba has claimed that he wants to take on the Oba Challenge. He is opening the Oba Challenge, which is any performer comes to Oba. Once again, this is another mark of all these wrestlers who have been let go from the company, and the fact that the WWE are now heavily relying on the youthful stock that they have, because NXT is such a proving ground. And NXT has their own pay-per-views, and they have these young guys. They have been holding the spot just like any other wrestler, just in a smaller room. Now, if it gets over heavily within that smaller room, they are willing to bring them to the main roster, because it's highly logical that it's going to work. The thing about the NXT is, though, NXT is very much hardcore wrestling fans, and the reason for that is because a lot of the NXT fans are wrestlers themselves, contracted to the WWE just to fill up the spaces. So because of this, the NXT crowd that also fills in, who are not necessarily a part of the business, those people are hardcore wrestling fans. So sometimes a thing can get over in NXT and completely not work on the main roster. We have seen it many times before. I call it Tyler Breeze or Ty Dillinger, or do you know what I mean? Sean Spears had to come back as Sean Spears, because this wasn't working on the main roster. But with a hardcore wrestling fan, this doesn't matter, because he was a good wrestler. So the main roster is a little bit tricky, and they're relying heavily on the people who worked in NXT, which is why someone like JCJ is here. Because JCJ is not necessarily the greatest fan favorite. As a matter of fact, one of the lines they refer to as when JCJ won the title was the most beatable champ ever. And that went on for like 6 to 8 months. The most beatable champ ever, they called her. So she wasn't necessarily greatly loved. Even as a heel, people still didn't think she isn't it. So now relying on these performers who are proven, I mean, I think this just brings me to my next segment, if I'm being honest, which brings me to Liv, Roxanne, and Finn Balor. The whole Judgment Day thing, Finn Balor out of the Judgment Day, he brought in Roxanne Perez. Now, here's the thing. I think this is another storyline that's happening too quickly. So if we're really being honest, I can see what they're lining up. Roxanne Perez is going to leave the Judgment Day, because really and truly, a year or two should be marked out for a performer to kind of just rise through the ranks and learn how to maneuver on the main roster, because the main roster isn't NXT, which is what has been done for Roxanne Perez. I believe that was clearly the idea, but now there's been a purge of the locker room. The Kairi Sanes are gone. There's so many performers that they've kind of gutted out, so they need to rely on the younger performers. And we are talking about the I mean, just to give you an idea of who and what Roxanne Perez is, if you didn't watch NXT, it was like Roman Reigns holding the title for as long as he held the title as the tribal chief. That was Roxanne's reign as champion. You see the size of her. Liv Morgan is tiny, and Roxanne Perez is considerably smaller than that. She was extremely believable as NXT Women's Champion. No one could beat her, and it wasn't unbelievable. It was completely believable because she was that good. So it doesn't surprise me that the WWE would think to themselves, okay, we need to start putting Roxanne Perez in these spheres to compete. Because I guarantee you, once Roxanne Perez starts competing, it's not going to be the Intercontinental title. It's not going to be the US title. I'm not saying she won't go past it on her way up, that she might not win it and hold it for a couple of months. But Roxanne Perez, skill-wise, I guarantee you is going all the way to the top of the card. It's like Io. She's that good. So once she gets purged from the Judgment Day by Liv, because I could always see that coming. I could always see that coming because that needs to be a match in itself. Liv versus Roxanne Perez, the talent level of both of them and the pop, as you saw in Laredo, Texas, when she came out for her match, the love for her. And granted, I get it, she's from Laredo, Texas, so that's her hometown, so it was always going to be something like that. But I believe that is a match waiting to happen. Liv Morgan versus Roxanne Perez. So I fully understand why the WWE or Triple H has chosen to start this storyline or put it in motion to kind of get Roxanne out of the Judgment Day on her own so that she can start performing and making that way towards the title. It then led us to the match itself, which was Lyra Valkyria and Bayley versus the Judgment Day, which was Raquel Rodriguez and Roxanne Perez in her hometown of Laredo, Texas. Wow. It could have easily won my best match of the night purely because fans, it was almost like I was there. The fans had me so invested. And she performed so well for her hometown crowd. She soaked it up, but she performed so well and she gave so much to it and she just shone the whole way through the match. And it shows you what Roxanne can do with an engine behind her. So I very much enjoyed that. I would have easily given it the match of the night, but I understand there's a lot of bias behind it. And the bias was that we were in Laredo, Texas. That's where the match took place. She is from Laredo, Texas. So obviously there was going to be that much pop for her, but she did everything so well. That brings us to our final segment of the night, which was the OTC coming out, cutting a promo. Looked good, looked strong, looked very powerful, looked like everything the OTC has always been. And then Jacob came out and not so much. No, Tongan Death Grip. I haven't seen that in a while. Like, a while. Crazy. It was a very interesting segment. I very much liked it. And I give Jacob Fatu my MVP of the night because WWE acquired him for a reason. And it almost seems like he is so professional at this point that when you need him to step down and not be a focal and not, because it's all in, you go out there to do a match, you want to do the best you can do. But if you're not supposed to win the match and if you're supposed to be selling another wrestler, if you're supposed to, whatever you're supposed to do in that, he seems to do that very well because the step up from who he's been, say, last 3 to 4 months or so, it's just progressed. And now the level of violence applied when he just, within that segment, was just wild to me. So I think he's an excellent performer. He does so well and he can move through the levels. He can be dominant and prominent and he can be not so much should you need him to be. And I noticed that about him. He looks like a very credible competitor for that title. And if I didn't know anything about the craft and how a storyline is put together, especially in something like wrestling, I would say he's probably going to win that title. He's not, but very credible. Excellent work. Now, that is it for me. If you like the content, please hit like, subscribe, hit the notification button. It lets you know when I'm uploading next. And until then, I have been the Triple Crown Champ. I'll see you next time.